Want to humble a man? These psychology tricks will bruise his ego deeply and leave him speechless. Have you ever encountered a man who walks into every situation believing he is always right and everyone else should simply follow his opinions? A man who mistakes arrogance for confidence and believes his attitude gives him the power to control people around him? Many people try to defeat arrogance by becoming aggressive themselves, but fighting ego with ego usually creates more conflict instead of respect. The real way to humble someone is not through insults, revenge, or trying to hurt their pride. The most powerful way is showing a level of emotional strength that they cannot manipulate, challenge, or easily understand. A person with a strong ego often expects emotional reactions because reactions make them feel powerful and in control. They expect you to become angry, defensive, or desperate to prove your point during every disagreement. But when you remain calm and confident, you take away the reaction they were hoping to receive. Your emotional control sends a message that your peace is stronger than their attempt to disturb it. A truly confident person does not need to compete with anyone just to prove their value or importance. They understand that their worth comes from within, not from winning every argument or receiving constant approval. The first thing that can completely change the dynamic with an arrogant person is your ability to control your emotions. When someone tries to provoke you, they are often testing whether they can influence your mood and behavior. They want to discover if a few words can make you lose confidence or question yourself. But when you respond with patience and calmness, their usual strategy begins to lose its effect. The person who expected control suddenly starts feeling uncertain because their influence is no longer working. Your silence, confidence, and relaxed attitude can communicate more powerfully than a long argument ever could. The second way to shift the balance is by stopping the need to constantly seek approval from someone else. Many people make the mistake of explaining themselves repeatedly because they want the other person to finally understand them. They spend hours defending their choices, their personality, and their decisions to someone who has already judged them. But confidence does not chase validation from people who refuse to appreciate it. A person who respects themselves understands that not every opinion deserves a response or explanation. Sometimes the strongest answer is simply standing firmly in your own identity without needing permission from anyone. When you stop looking for approval, people begin to notice a different energy around you, especially those who are used to receiving attention, admiration, and emotional reactions from others. They begin realizing that their words no longer control your confidence or determine your emotional state. The third powerful method is learning how to ask calm but meaningful questions instead of immediately reacting emotionally. An arrogant person often prepares themselves for arguments because conflict makes them feel powerful. But a thoughtful question can completely change the direction of the conversation. Instead of attacking them, you can calmly ask, "Why do you feel the need to communicate this way?" Or you can ask, "What makes you believe this approach is the best way to treat someone?" These types of questions force people to look at their own behavior instead of focusing only on your reaction. Sometimes self-reflection can be more uncomfortable than any criticism coming from another person. The fourth way to create respect is understanding the power of walking away from unnecessary conflict. Many people believe the winner is the person who gets the final word in an argument. But sometimes leaving the conversation peacefully is a stronger statement than continuing the fight. Walking away shows that your peace is more valuable than proving yourself to someone who refuses to listen. A person who depends on conflict loses influence when you refuse to participate in their emotional games. Your ability to leave with dignity becomes a reflection of your confidence and maturity. The fifth lesson is never lowering yourself to match someone else's negative behavior. When someone acts disrespectfully and you respond with the same attitude, you allow them to bring you down to their level. Real strength is maintaining your character even when someone else chooses to behave differently. Your calmness becomes the difference between reacting emotionally and responding intelligently. The strongest people are not those who can destroy another person's confidence or make them feel inferior. The strongest people are those who can maintain their own confidence without needing to damage anyone else. It is important to understand that excessive arrogance is often connected to hidden insecurity. Some people create a powerful image because they fear being seen as weak or unimportant. This does not mean you should accept disrespect or allow someone to treat you poorly. It simply means understanding the psychology behind their behavior gives you more control over your own response. When you understand why someone behaves a certain way, you stop taking their actions personally. You begin responding from wisdom instead of reacting from frustration or anger. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying too hard to prove that they are valuable. They argue longer, explain more, and desperately try to convince someone that they are right. But a truly confident person knows their value does not depend on another person's agreement. The moment you stop fighting for recognition is often the moment people begin recognizing your strength. Confidence becomes powerful because it shows emotional security and inner stability. It tells people that you know exactly who you are and what you bring into someone's life. You understand your standards, your boundaries, and the things you will no longer tolerate. A person with strong self-respect becomes extremely difficult to manipulate or control. They cannot easily be pressured into accepting behavior that goes against their values, and they do not need anyone else's approval to feel complete and worthy. If you want people to respect you, the first step is learning how to respect yourself completely. Your boundaries teach people what treatment you will accept and what behavior you will reject. Your actions often communicate your standards more clearly than your words ever could. When you consistently show confidence, people naturally begin adjusting how they approach you. Not because you force them to change, but because you showed them your expectations. The goal is never to make someone feel small, just to make yourself feel bigger. The real goal is becoming so emotionally strong that someone else's ego cannot disturb your peace. The most unforgettable person in the room is not always the loudest person seeking attention. Sometimes it is the quiet person who remains calm, while everyone else becomes emotional. It is the person who listens carefully, speaks with purpose, and chooses their battles wisely. It is the person who understands their worth without needing constant praise from others. So whenever you meet someone who tries to overpower you with arrogance, remember this important lesson. Do not fight ego with ego, because that only creates more unnecessary tension. Do not allow someone else's attitude to control your emotions or change who you are. Choose confidence, patience, and self-respect, because those qualities create real power. The strongest response is becoming someone who cannot be easily shaken by another person's behavior. And when someone realizes they cannot control your emotions, they often lose the influence they once believed they had. That is the moment when true respect begins to develop. Not because you defeated another person, but because you learned how to master yourself.